This is just a short video giving you some advice on how to revise and edit your first project to make it as strong as possible before turning it in for the grade. So just as a quick reminder, we do 3 major projects this term, 2 minor ones. The major projects are the majority of your grade, so really important to pay attention to these bigger projects, okay? And you all have been doing a great job, just wanted to mention that. So first thing, as far as revising and editing, always take a look at the project requirements again. So it's a great time to go back and read the instructions closely. Go through the requirement list and literally check off each box as you check your own project to make sure that it's met those different pieces. Particularly pay close attention to your visual formatting, so it has to be an MLA format, just the visual formatting. We're not doing anything with citation yet. And then it also has to meet the specific length requirements. Be aware that 90 level is different than 95. So if you're working at the 90 level, make sure that you only have 2 paragraphs, and those paragraphs can be roughly around a page in length. It shouldn't be 2 pages if you're at the 90 level, and it shouldn't look like an essay at the 90 level. Now, if you're registered as a 90 student but working towards 95 credit, that's different. You're going to be working at the 95 level. You'll work with the 95 requirements. And at 95, that means that you're really aiming for that 2 full pages of writing. Yours should be if you want to think of it as a mini essay or a short essay, it should have multiple body paragraphs. It should have a beginning paragraph and an ending paragraph to tie it all together. So really pay attention to those basic requirements that you need to do for the project. Second thing, add specific details. The more specific, the better. This is how you can really make your writing engaging. So if I'm just going to say something like, I like cars, okay, so what? Right? But if I give you a very specific car, my favorite car of all time is a 1969 Corvette convertible with a 427 engine, chrome side exhaust, red on the outside, black leather interior, black top, of course manual transmission, and I could go on. That is specific. Now you don't just know that I like cars, you know exactly what type of car because I'm giving you my favorite with a whole bunch of details added in. So when you're thinking back on like your wisdom and what you've learned, make sure that you're including specific details, both about the wisdom piece itself, possibly how you learned that wisdom, as well as how that would have helped you when you were younger. So specific details are really important in just making sure that your writing comes across clearly to your reader. Next, show, don't tell what you mean. So this may be a concept that seems really confusing right now, but what I mean by show is literally illustrating or giving examples of what you mean. So you wouldn't want to just make a statement like, I wish I would have known how to be a better friend. Okay, well, so what, right? What do you mean by a better friend? How would that have helped you? Why is that important? Can you give an example of what it maybe would have made a difference? Like, was there a particular time where you were not a good friend that you wish you could kind of redo that situation and be the good friend that you wanted to be? You got to include all those details. Don't assume that your reader is going to know what you mean. You explain it. You show them what you mean. So that's the difference between show, don't tell. Now, removing unnecessary details is kind of the next step. Because this is a short writing project, you don't have that much space, which means you really want to make sure that the space includes all really relevant, important information. Be cautious of trying to give a large overview or summary of your entire history or backstory. That's going to make it too broad. You want to stick to the information related to the specific writing prompt question. So don't include just general information that doesn't directly include. And a great way to check this is just go through every sentence, read the sentence, look at the writing prompt. Does it relate in some way to that? If it doesn't, that's probably a good sentence or idea to maybe take out. Another great trick during this stage of the process is to create what's called a reverse outline. Now, a reverse outline is literally where you take the details in your paragraphs, in your essay, and put it back into a pre-writing outline form. So for instance, if I was doing the essay, I would write thesis. What do I think my thesis is? Main idea number one. What is my first main idea in the first body paragraph? What is my support for that? And I'd write it out separate from the essay. Then what you can do once you have it in that outline form is literally check for missing pieces, first of all. Is there anything you're not including? Anything that's repetitive? Does it seem like two ideas really sound too similar to each other? Is there a reason that you put it in that particular order, right? It lets you check for organization. So it's a really great trick and a good strategy for this revising stage of the writing process. Another aspect, and again, this is something we just are practicing and starting to work on, but make sure to include a few transition words and phrases to show how your ideas are related. Something as simple as in addition, however, on the other hand, furthermore, in contrast. Those help your readers understand how the different points of your essay are related. Now, every sentence should not have a transition on it. You can overuse transitions and you can underuse them. You want to have some nice balance. So one way to think about transitions is to make sure that you're including them between your body paragraphs, explaining how the paragraphs are connected or related to each other. That's a good place to start. Another place to look for transitions is when you do set up examples, use phrases such as, for instance, in particular, one time, for example. Those will help your reader know that you're giving an example of what you're talking about. Moving on to a more editing area, one particular focus that I would like you to have for this editing part is to remove you and your from your writing. Those two words will cause your writing to be overly informal and actually often inaccurate. They can also come across as offensive to your reader if they are phrased in a way that's giving your reader a command. So when you're getting these out, what you need to do is step back and ask yourself, who do I mean by you? Do I mean general people? Do I mean I? Do I mean students? Do I mean friends? Who is it that you actually mean when you say you and your? Replace the words with whoever you actually mean, okay? I know a lot of you have mentioned that you really want to work on sounding more professional and more academic. This is the first step to doing that, is to get those two words out of your writing. Now, as far as other editing sort of focuses, don't try to edit for every single grammar error there is in the whole wide world. That isn't a good approach. Instead, focus it in on particular types of grammar that we have covered so far this term. So things like word choice, right? You're going to do an activity this week. Capitalization, particularly making sure that you're not using texting language, right? A lowercase I for what should be a capitalized I, for instance. And then just, of course, making sure that you're using complete sentences. If you read a sentence out loud by itself and it doesn't make sense, that's a really good hint that that's not a complete sentence or that it needs a little bit of editing. And in fact, one great editing strategy is to have someone else read your essay out loud to you. Hearing it and hearing your writing can often help you identify areas where something doesn't sound the way you want it to. And then you know that you need to go back and take a look at that area. You don't have to identify a particular grammar rule to make your writing sound clearer, okay? So that's what to focus on. Again, pick some specific pieces to edit, the ones we've worked on so far, the ones I would advise, and then look closely for those issues in your writing. And then finally, of course, you can always reach out for additional feedback. I know some of you have had a chance to work with our tutor and meet with a tutor, either, like I said, our class tutor or someone else in the Writing Center, but you also have the ability to send your project to the online tutoring, which is separate from our embedded tutor, who could also give you feedback. But our online tutoring system, there's a link to it on the Canvas page. You literally click it and it's going to take you to a different site. Once you're there, you're going to have to sign up for an account because it is this sort of separate service. Then you log in, you kind of attach your document as you would attach a file to an email, submit it within about 24, 48 hours, sometimes up to 72 hours. You're going to get a response from a tutor with some different ideas, tips, explanation about what to work on. It's a great way to get another perspective or another set of eyes on your writing projects. So I encourage you to reach out if you want additional feedback. Of course, you can also apply your peer review feedback. Hopefully that helped you see some things that you want to work on in your own writing, whether it was from the comments that you specifically received from your peers or even from reading other peers' drafts. I know personally when I read other people's writing, I see things all the time where I'm like, ooh, that sounded really good. I want to try doing something similar in my writing. Or I see something like, oh my gosh, that repetition, it drove me crazy. I need to edit my own work now to make sure that I don't have that same repetition. So consider all of that as you're working on this. Take it one step at a time. This is our first project. We have not covered everything that we're going to talk about this term in relation to writing. It is just the first step. So breathe. Make sure that you are not sort of over stressing yourself about our first project. If you've completed all the steps of the writing process, then you will have the option to revise this project once it's graded. So there will be some ability to continue to work on it, again, as long as you've gone through all those steps of the writing process on time. But other than that, I look forward to seeing your final drafts, and of course, let me know if you have any questions.